Hey guys, what's up? In today's video, we're talking about this. This is a GTX 1050 Ti. More specifically, this is the MSI Aero GTX 1050 Ti. It's just a very tiny single fan graphics card, and there's really nothing special to talk about here in terms of looks. It's just really a basic card. And one of the special things about this card is that it does not have a supplementary PCIe power connector. And in today's video, I'm just going to simply be testing this card in some modern and even some older games to see, well, is this card even still decent? The GTX 1050 Ti was originally released in October of 2016 as a very budget-oriented graphics card for low to mid-range systems. But honestly, I don't know if this card has aged very well, but that's what we aim to find out in today's video. Sporting a mere 4 gigabytes of GDDR5 VRAM, this card is definitely not the most powerful thing on the planet. But that's not what it was meant to be. It was meant to be a small, inexpensive, and low-power GPU. Again, it does not have PCIe power connectors on the side, it just takes its power from the slot. So, now, I was never really a fan of the GTX 1050 Ti. It's kind of underpowered, and it's always been relatively expensive. But I actually picked this up used for about $40, and for that price, even if it's not the best performer in the world, you really, I definitely feel like I'm getting my money's worth for $40 for this card, so, I'm definitely happy with it, but that's beside the point. In this video, again, we're just going to be talking about the performance of this card with some gameplay benchmarks, and that's going to be it. I've done videos like this with other cards. It's just going to be simple gameplay, voiceover, and obviously average FPS and stuff like that. So, let's get into the benchmarks, starting with Grand Theft Auto 5. Yes, GTA 5, it's still alive, so we're still going to benchmark it. And this is actually a great game to test old, new, not so old, not so new, whatever. It's a great game to test all kinds of GPUs because of its insane performance difference between ultra settings, low settings. It's got extra settings, so it's definitely a very scalable game for older GPUs. It came out in 2013 and it's still being updated today because Rockstar's too lazy to make a new one. But for a GTX 1050 Ti, this is GTA 5 high settings, we're actually seeing about 60 FPS. Now, is that super amazing? No, but even when blowing stuff up, I like to turn on cheats and blow stuff up to really get this graphics card working. And we're at about 100% usage at all times. Our VRAM is not hitting 100%, so we're definitely GPU limited. It's about 97 to 100% at almost all points, and we're hitting a good 60 FPS. Obviously, we can lower our settings, get a higher FPS, or even raise our settings and get a lower FPS if you really felt the need to, which would be stupid. But yeah, of course, it's kind of expected. Yes, this card is good for GTA 5, but you're expecting to get about 60 FPS, nothing special, no high refresh rate or anything. But as a side note, I was recording using GeForce Experience, which takes advantage of the onboard encoder. So this is the Pascal encoder on this card. It does not really affect the GPU's performance. I did test on and off recording, and there was zero difference in FPS besides normal margin of error between runs of testing anyway. So it kind of goes to show that, if you want a cheap GTA 5 like recording card, GTX 1050 Ti, not bad. But again, don't pay anything more than $50 for this card. Moving on to our next game, real quick. GTA 5, easy peasy lemon squeezy, you know the deal. I decided to jump right to Cyberpunk 2077 just to get a new, probably the most modern game that I have on here right out of the way right quick. We are at Cyberpunk 2077, lowest possible settings in the game. And, well, actually, although we are at 100% usage, now our VRAM counter did just completely break. There was nothing I could do about it. I don't know why. But we are using 100% of our GTX 1050 Ti, and I will tell you, you guys may notice that the clock speed has changed from 1700 to 1800 megahertz, or about 18 to 19, however you count that. It's because I did just simply open MSI Afterburner, quickly apply a 100 megahertz overclock, super easy, and then click apply. I didn't tune or anything. It was super easy, and it just gives me like 1 to 2 more FPS. I thought, hey, why not? It's super easy to overclock. I don't know if there's a card in existence that can't handle an extra 100 megahertz unless you're overheating, but trust me, this card is not powerful enough to overheat anytime soon. We're still chilling at 50 degrees under maximum usage in this game. But again, our FPS, not too bad. 30 to 40, doing things, you know, combat, driving, whatever. Not the greatest on the planet, and this is actually running at, although the performance does look pretty decent, it's actually running at 75% resolution scale of 1080p. So again, even though the FPS is actually relatively playable, it is not even running at 1080p, but the game doesn't look that bad. It doesn't look great, although Cyberpunk is a good looking game, and it actually, you know, again, depending on what you believe, this might even be playable or worth purchasing the game, even on a card like this. But for me, I think the game just looks too bad, and the FPS is a little too low to be worth buying, but I am surprised this little card actually can run at 30 to 50 FPS, depending on what you're doing, and of course the resolution scale had to be set to 75, or this card was chugging. So, that's Cyberpunk 2077. I'm actually a little surprised with the performance, but besides that, let's move on to some other games that maybe actually have a chance of working. So, moving on to Rainbow Six Siege, because this is the kind of game that this card is really meant for. The competitive game, the competitive shooter like Rainbow Six Siege. It's not like CSGO where it'd be so easy to run that it's obvious. This game is a little more graphically intensive, especially on the higher settings, which we're about medium and high, a mix of both. As you can see, we are using 100% of our GPU in a what is considered by some people a competitive game. And this is more than playable. It's easy running around, hitting headshots, you know, peeking corners, shit like that. This is entirely playable competitively. A little bit less than the 144 FPS I would want to get, so we could use a high refresh rate monitor effectively, but we're definitely getting anywhere from 80 to 100, which is more than playable. Plus, if you lower the settings, you can probably get upwards of 144 on this graphics card. This is really the kind of game you should be buying this card for. If you can get one for 50, 60 bucks used, you can put together a little bit of a competitive gaming rig. And games like this, and I guess if you're one of those people, Fortnite would work. I will not test Fortnite because it's stupid and dumb, and I don't count it as a video game. But it would easily run Fortnite as well if it can run games like this. But again, this card can definitely run Rainbow Six Siege. Easy enough, competitive. You will be able to play this game. If you're good enough, you'll be able to win. You won't be held back by this card. Let's move on to the next game. Hitman II, low settings. This is low settings with best simulation quality. I always turn simulation quality to best. It makes the game most playable. And I'm actually pretty surprised. Anywhere from 60 to 80 FPS at any given point in the match. And of course, we are using 100% of our GPU, so that's how we know we're really getting our maximum performance. But the game is more than playable. Our frame times less than 10 milliseconds at most points. Very respectable. Our FPS anywhere again from 60 to 80, and the gameplay was very smooth. That's a very key factor. Sometimes you can have 60 FPS, but very not smooth gameplay. This card, I'm impressed. I'm impressed that it can run Hitman 2 and probably Hitman 3, because again, Hitman 3 is realistically speaking just a DLC for Hitman 2 at this point. They've been releasing the same game, just a bunch of different levels for the past few years. Easy enough, I can beat levels on this card, so can you. So, Hitman 2, success. Let's move on to the next game. Yeah, Far Cry 5 minimum settings, 60 FPS, nothing special to say here. This is again with that 100 megahertz overclock that I talked about before. You can see the which games had it and which games didn't. If you look at the top, 1800 megahertz is the overclock. Yeah, really nothing to say here. 100 FPS, 60 FPS average. You know, dips below, decent frame times, 15 milliseconds at most points. Nothing special. Let's just move on. So this one is very important. This is Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. And again, this is on lowest possible settings with 80% resolution scale, although the game actually still looks relatively decent. So this is more than playable with the graphics settings, but how is our FPS looking? Well, again, average of about 60 FPS. We do drop below it at some points, and we do get up towards of about 70 at some points, but I don't think that does this justice. So what I did is I played the game for about an hour or so, because it takes forever to get to high rounds because of how stupid this zombies mode is, and I got myself up into the round 40 something and started playing, and here you go. So you see the FPS is definitely a little bit lower than before, but it is entirely playable. I did get to a high round just to show you, for a matter of fact, that it is definitely playable on this card, which I was absolutely surprised that this thing, even though it is at a slightly lower resolution scale than 1080p, can actually run Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War at a respectable FPS. This is zombies, of course, because multiplayer is a cesspool of garbage, and the campaign can suck it. So, that's besides the point. As you can see, performance on this card is okay. What do you guys think of the GTX 1050 Ti? I personally genuinely hate this card for its release price. For $100 whatever that people were buying this card, that is stupid. But for the like $40 that I paid for it, I'm happy. So, besides that, hope you guys kind of enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think of this video in the comments below. Like the video, whatever, yada yada YouTube crap. Love you guys.